Back to The Adventures of Susan MeeLing, Scuba Diver Extraordinaire. It's me. Volume 1, chapters 1 through 4, written by me, Susan MeeLing, Reverend Susan MeeLing, Lady Dori, Belle, Reverend MeeLing. I've got a few names. So, on page 187 of volume 1. So, my next irony on page 187, that's one of my instructors, Patrick Lynch. And yeah, the prior video having discussed testimony. That's kind of fun. So, the next certification that I earned was the Equipment Specialist Non-Diving Certification. That was in April of 2009, irony, the 21st. As well as the Enriched Air Scuba Diver for nitrox. That, again, an irony of the 21st. So the two different scuba certifications I earned and were filed for my completion of that graduation was the 21st of April 2009 through the teachings of Kevin Murphy and Amanda Thomas. For each of those individually and together had taught me much more than they might have realized back at the time. But then that also goes for each scuba instructor that I had. The images that I showed you were at the Huntsville, Texas quarry. Kevin had discussed certain aspects of police work which he had done and already assisted my view in reference to being respectful to law enforcement officers, and had shown me the different aspects of equipment for regular scuba diving, as well as certain aspects of the police officer search and rescue scuba diving before actually taking that course, which he worked in the field for such. I know it was Huntsville because of the water composition seen in the pictures in comparison to the images for other locations. The images that I put in my 3-part book series are pictures that I had put on my original Facebook page way back when. So, and then I put, some, mainly the fish and the Vandenberg scuba dive especially, but also the Boca Raton scuba dive pictures up on my FetLife account, my original one. So yeah, did that. That's me. Yeah. Thus the education had taught me several tips in utilizing gear in a safe way, though also learning ways to streamline the diving equipment I was always having enough for any circumstance, because when I went scuba diving, it didn't matter if I was in the scuba park at Clear Springs. It didn't matter if I was at Huntsville in Texas, the quarry there, when I went for the naturalist certification in San Marcos for Aquarina Hot Springs. I wore a lot more gear than required by just open water standards. I wanted to make sure that no matter what situation I was in, I would, when underwater especially, didn't matter where, I would always have the correct equipment. And it didn't matter that I wasn't doing wreck dives. There were times when I carried my line, even still. Just the way I would guesstimate that certain types of scuba divers would giggle or laugh because of the amount of knives that I always had on me. Had them strapped in different areas. The emergency flares. When I went out to Cozumel for my first dives, I was teased about that. I was like, I'd rather have all this gear and not need it than not have the gear and need it. Call me weird, that's fine. You can make fun of me all you want. I'm gonna wear it and I don't care. I'm gonna do it. I would rather not need all of the scuba knives that I got than need just one and not have any. And so, a real quick joke in reference. Although I did not take the concealed handgun license class, my now dead ex-husband had told me about his teacher. And his teacher had like 21 or 23 different firearms on him, and they were all concealed. You could never see them. And I was like, I'm going to do that with my knives. And so, never met the guy that I know of. But yeah, the amount of knives that I had on me when scuba diving, there was not a place that there wasn't more than probably a 6-inch area that I could not instantly reach a knife like that. And yeah, and I was ready to cut. It was one of those, and I always made sure my knives were sharp. They like, ooh, extremely sharp. I have this innate ability that sometimes I don't even need a rock to sharpen the knives. Like, for example, I personally like Café du Monde. When I can't find Café du Monde coffee, I will get French Market coffee, which is similar. And they have a aluminum seal that you don't actually have to do the can opener. You just pop it open, and I can make that sharp. So that's not supposed to be sharp, but so that's how sharp my knives can be. I learned how to do that a long time ago. How to do that before my head injury. So, and then going through the nitrox certification class with Amanda Thomas, I was able to inquire at various points, which because of my Palm Sunday 2000 head injury and all that stuff, I did feel bad because anybody who did not believe that I had issues with math and arithmetic, Amanda Thomas would definitely be able to be like, yes, despite how she could go on about all sorts of stuff when it comes to scuba diving, numbers are definitely just nope. And then the other guys that would definitely be able to be like, yeah, it's just number, no, would be the guys who taught as well as were in my National Geographic Open Water Scuba certification. Yeah, those guys especially, and then a few other certifications where, yeah, no. Her and numbers, no, math is definitely not her strong suit. Pun intended, because, cards, they have numbers, right? Oh, come on. And then you wear a scuba suit, what's, okay. Somebody will laugh at that. Beyond me. But yeah, when using the oxygen tanks in comparison to the nitrox, I had chosen to do that because of speaking with my instructor, Patrick Lynch. And he said he was going to use nitrox when going out to the Oriskany. And so I decided for the Florida trip that I'll discuss in, I think it's volume 2, almost there, that I would want that. And my biological Mike, he just was like, no, not the juju juice. And it's like, no, I'm doing the, I don't care what you call it, I'm still doing it. And I am glad that I did, but that wasn't what kept me safe. It helped, I don't deny that, but anyway, so though others were not a part of my medical care through the outside of the United States of America's Armed Forces branches and divisions, might not have wanted to believe certain aspects as well as those I knew. There are plenty of doctors who actually have medical licenses on top of the scuba divers, instructors that would be able to verify that. And even though Erica, also known as Discordia on FetLife in 2011 and 2012, she said that her dad had been a resident at Johns Hopkins University, which I told her it didn't give her the right to test my head injury effects. She was upset because she apparently knew somebody who had gotten into a car accident and was in a coma and didn't remember her. And I was one of those, well, I'm not, you don't have a medical license, you have no right to do that. You're not a part of anything that's considered acceptable, and just because your dad earned the degree that he did doesn't mean that transfers to you. I actually taught my son that in a different way, because I told him when he wanted to do certain things, I was like, just because I did certain things does not mean that transfers to you. I am all for you getting into certain things, but understand that, you know, just because I did it doesn't mean that you have the training and the capability. You can get that capability through your own training, but in certain regards, but you know, you can't do everything that I can, and that's not a bad thing. It's just, you know, I went through the training I did, and I did what I did. So, you know, just because I did what I did doesn't mean that you can do what I can do. And it's not to be disrespectful, although in Erica's case it was. But yeah, it was one of those, just because your dad went and worked at Johns Hopkins University does not mean that you have a medical license or degree to do any of that at all. Going back to Amanda Thomas, the extra time and explanations of certain techniques, as well as the extra time of discussing the mathematical proportions of the different nitrox levels, the ability to function in the upcoming circumstances assisted much of my survival for a lot of stuff that we had discussed in in that particular class, as well as a few others, especially in reference to when I went to the USS or USNS Vandenberg later in that year, in 2009. However, I do find it a bit ironic that a few different aspects of the different communities in reference to, I had no idea of I never asked the scuba instructors where they worked. If they chose to speak with me about it, they chose to speak with me about it. And that goes for the pagan community and the swinger community, the LGBTQP community, and the BDSM community. I mean, there were certain ones where I was like, I know you're military, or I know you're law enforcement, so thank you. You know, but, you know, as far as other stuff, it was just one of those, whatever your job is whatever your job is. You know, I'm not judging you by your job. And I'm not really judging you, I'm just, you know, taking you as you are. And, you know, I mean, unless you give me a reason not to, you know, like you, pretty simple and open-minded in a lot of ways. you know, and in a quick little side note, you know, as far as like my ex sister-in-law, Mary Evangelina Nichols Osteen, she had she had told me she and her husband were a part of the swinger community back in 2001. And I was like, oh, well, you know, whatever. And she touted it around like I was supposed to be impressed. And I was like, I really don't care. Like the story that she had told me about how she had, her and David had gone to a swinger event. And on the way back from the party, she put her brand new shoes back into the shoebox. Well, David had run over a chipmunk or a squirrel or some, you know, whatever. I mean, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, you know. Oh, well, she was so pissed off that he ran over the rodent in Georgia at night that she threw a tantrum until he turned the car around. She told me this, and as she's telling me this, David is sitting in the chair, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, really? And he's just, and I was like, I guess a happy wife, happy life, but seriously? You turned the car around, you didn't say get out? You are so much nicer than I am. I told her to get out of the car. I would have. And then if she continued throwing a temper tantrum, I'd have stopped the car. And then I'm like, okay, unclick and psh, out the door and go on my merry little way. And he was just like, oh my God. And so Mary, you know, as I continued listening to Mary, you know, she was like, oh, you know, I mean, and she was proud of this. She was so proud of this. And I'm like, you are stupid. She's like, you're just one of those. I don't like you. I'll tolerate you, but I don't like you at all. And so she apparently made him turn the car around. Those shoes that she wouldn't like wear in the car and like all, she took them out of the shoebox to take the shoebox to scoop up the dead rodent. And then she gave it a funeral in the backyard at their house in Macon, Georgia. And when she told me that, I was like, are you kidding? Please tell me you're telling me a joke. And she nope, I did it. It was right after the swinger party, whatever did it on. I was like, And you stayed married to that? Like, that was what I asked. And David put his face in his hands. He's like, oh my God. And I'm just wondering. You stayed married to that? Okay. All right, you know, whatever. You know, I mean, whatever. To each their own, you know, I mean. All right, then. You know, you have a choice to leave, and you're gonna stay with that. All right, you know, whatever, you know. I don't know why, but okay. But yeah, she went on and she tried telling me, you know, you should be impressed because, you know, I've been in the swinger community for whatever, and I'm like, I don't care. I really don't care. And there were a bunch of times that she, you know, that during that week, essentially, she was like, yeah, and then when I didn't like this person anymore, I outed them and I did that, and I was like, right away. And she's like, yeah, and I did this and this and this, and I was like, I don't like you. Now I acknowledge at this point that I technically have outed in like starting 2019 from stuff way, way, way back when, but that's only for law enforcement stuff, and that's not really, it's outing, but it's not in the way that she was describing. She was saying she did it immediately, you know, anytime she had whatever issues, and it's like, I don't have patience for people like you. Now that kind of makes sense with certain things with individuals. Anyway, yeah. I'm not. Oh, we guesstimated at some point she realized that was a big. So, that is not a female. I don't know if I ever actually met her, but I just have this feeling that she is just not the type of female you'd want to upset at all. So, going on, the next SCUBA certification I earned, and not being rude to Ms. Jules, I actually really wanted to get to know her. I thought that she seemed really interesting. Anyway, going on to the next certification, which was the Sunto computer-assisted diving on the 23rd of April 2009, and then the certification for altitude diving the 26th of April. The graduation for the Sunto system I learned from Brian Devine, which Patty from International SCUBA, her husband, and we discussed the SCUBA gear I had, which was different than what I had in certain regards, but would prepare me for other gear and stuff. And he had done massage therapy, but he had also done other forms of computer stuff. And I had told him about being Reiki attuned, and we discussed the energetic healing. And he already knew about, like, every scuba diver that was an instructor of mine. At some point in time, I discussed my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. And so I had told, because of the computer aspect, Brian had asked me, why do you want this certification and that? And I said, well, it's better to know than to not know. And, I'm really nervous when it comes to my scuba gear as far as any computer stuff because of what I dealt with on land. And so in scuba diving, I want to make sure that as best as possible, I'm able to not mess anything up. And so I told him about the laptop issue, and he just looked at me, he's like, oh my God. And so I was like, I did what I could to not, cause any problems. Told him about raking the computer. And he was just, oh, that's what you felt like doing? I'm like, well, it seemed like there was some stuff, and how was I supposed to know that was going to happen? And so I had told him about that, and then, I had explained certain aspects of different things that I had experienced, and not in a full overall aspect, but in certain regards. And then when it came to a time out at Lake Travis, him and Patty had shown up, and they were like, what hotel are you staying at? I was like, oh, we'll camp out. I always camp out. And they were like, what do you mean? And I'm like, oh, that's my tent over there. And they were like, you got a tent? I was like, of course. I've been camping for each of the certifications with the exception of the open water. Open water, National Geographic was the only one that I got a hotel for. So yeah, I mean, if there was an availability to just camp, then I just camped. And they were like, what? You're a girl. I'm like, yeah. But yes. What about it? But you sleep outside? I was, yeah. Well, technically, my tent is outside, but I sleep in the tent. It's not the first time. I mean, I did a few sweat lodges for myself, and I mean, it's no big deal. I was, really? It was no big deal? No big deal. It's pretty, lay down and, put the fly out and, get to see the stars overhead and just, relaxing, feel the breeze, enjoy stuff. But they were just, you camp out? Yeah. to eat? I bring MREs. What else would I bring? And they're just food. And I'm like, MREs are food. They have food in MREs. But you're a girl. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Uh-huh. What's the big deal? So you have no problem. Well, you know, I mean, I don't understand what the big deal is that I'm camping out. I mean, it's like, why would I get a hotel room? I can enjoy the outdoors. I can, you know, listen to the fire and, you know, play with the fire. And, you know, water's right there. I mean, oh my God, you got no problem. I got no problem with that. Why would I, who go, like, unless I'm going to a destination, why would I get a hotel? And they're like, but you drove from Carrollton to Austin. Technically, that's, yeah, well, you know, there's water and there's a campground. I can just pitch my tent and camp. This is my math. Okay, tell us your math. I would show up here for my scuba instruction lessons, and then I'll unpack all that stuff, to then go scuba diving, So my options are, I could just, you know, relax the area, or go and pack everything back up to go to a hotel, to take all that stuff up into the hotel, to then go back downstairs, because you know it will most likely be a second story or whatever, and then put it back in my car the next day to drive back to the lake, to do that again, or just like have it right there and just relax. That's my math. I'm just gonna, you know, unpack and, you know, set up my tent. A lot less work to set up that tent than to like repack my car and then unpack my car to take all that stuff up into the hotel to then go in the next day to put back in my car to drive back and then take it all out of my car again. I mean, you know, you can call me lazy if you want, but I think that's smart. Just, you know, have it right there, and, you know, I mean, I'm just saying. And they're just like, so you're not going to go to a hotel? No. My tent is like right there. It's already been, I set up my tent after I got my stuff out of the car. It was like a one and done sort of thing, and, you know, that's it. Just relax, enjoy the scuba diving, enjoy the scenery. Go scuba diving some more, swim in the water, good to go. And oh, okay, sure. Well, what about, like, you know, how do you, you know, check your email? I don't. That's how. I have no reason to at that time to check my email. And I got my cell phones. If I'm needed, I'll be contacted. Otherwise, just enjoy the scuba lessons and scuba diving. Oh, okay, that's what you got? Yep. Seems like a lot more work to do the other way, to just go and unpack the car, get all my gear on. And then, you know, that's not even taking consideration, like, all the lake water in my car. At least, like, there's time for that to dry out, and then I can, like, brush off the other stuff and then put it in my car. You know, it doesn't mess up my car. The car's good. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, you know, it works. Works for me. So then, the next certification, I think, I'll finish that one up. So then, Project Aware Specialty Non-Diving Scuba Certification on 30 April 2009 was my certification graduation date. Matthew Porter was my teacher. There were a few other students in the class. whatchamacallit, and again, with a lot of the ability to listen to the students ask questions as well as the responses, I was able to learn a lot. And we did part of the work, even though it was a non-diving certification, part of the class was actually out at Clear Springs Scuba Park. And there was where Patty, the owner of International Scuba at that time, had said, Susan, I need someone to play the victim. And I was like, play the victim? What do you mean play the victim? Why would you play a victim? And Patty was like, no, I'm teaching the rescue divers. So like, that's what I mean. Oh, okay. So nobody's like pretending. Like, and she's like, that's a little different of a question, Susan. I was like, what? I'm just saying, like, why would you pretend to be a victim? It's just confusing to me. But now that you clarify that it's for the class, and so that way, like, there's the search and whatever. Yeah, cool. Or what was it? Recover. It was rescue diver. A rescue diver. That's what it was. So I asked Patty what I needed to do. Irony of it being during the Project Aware class. And Matthew Porter had discussed how he was going to go with his wife and child to the Galapagos Islands. I was like, oh, you're going to get to see the little baby turtles that are centuries years old. The little baby turtles. Oh. But anyway, so, I go, be safe, little baby turtles. I mean, they're not little, and they're not babies when they're centuries years old, but still. So, I get over, I put my gear on, and I walk over to that side of where the floating platform with the cover was at. And I realized I could have put my stuff in my car and driven over there. That probably would have been easier, or just swam across, but instead I walked. So, whatever. It's a little late now. That was 2009. This is 2020. So, Anyway, so I walk over, and Patty told me, I want you to be as difficult as possible. And I was like, I don't know, Patty. Are you sure about that? You want me to be difficult? Like, on purpose? She's like, yes. And I'm like, how is this different? Like, okay, so, like, what is your definition of difficult in this? Because, like, I'm and she's like, you need to splash around. You need, like, the guy has got to bring you in, and you got to fight him. You got to scream for help. Scream. Patty, let me pause you right there. You want me to scream? Yes, I want you to. Are you sure? Because I can kind of be loud. I kind of like. Don't think that I can't be loud, because I can be loud. And she was like, yeah, okay, Susan. I'm like, okay. You sure? Yes, I want you to scream for help. Are you sure? Like, I don't know, Patty. I think that I should just, like, speak loudly. Like, and I'd probably be good just speaking loudly. No, I want you to scream. Alright, Patty. I mean, if that's what you think, yeah, it's okay. She's like, no, 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 I want you to scream. I want you to like give this guy a hard time. I want you to just be, just a pain to like pull in. And I'm like, and then what? And she goes, well, you know, when you feel like it, Patty? No, 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 let me finish. Oh, okay, okay, Patty, go ahead. When you feel like it, then you can let him bring you in. So that way he can rescue you. Patty, I have a question. And she was like, what? And I was like, so I'm kind of sadist. Like I'm kind of like I'm kind of sadist. By that time, I had been modeling for a while, and those in the BDSM community kind of knew that, and I already had started. And so I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just gonna. Are you sure you want me as a sadist to be difficult? I mean, I can. I mean, I don't usually do it on purpose. So, but if you really want, I don't know, Patty. I think that you don't want me to be that. She's like, no, 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 no. I want you to be difficult. Like as difficult can be. Alright. I mean, I can be difficult. I can be. I don't deny that. But if that's how you wanna, and she's like, yes, because this guy has been he's been giving you a hard time. Oh, okay. Well, now what has he been doing? And she was like, oh. I'm like, yeah, so what? And she's like, well, he's kind of arrogant and he's kind of rude and he thinks that he knows everything, even though, like, she was a teacher. And, okay. And she was like, yeah, he has stated that he doesn't really think that females can be scuba divers. Oh. Is that so? Oh, okay. I got you. I will make sure he respects you, Patty. He will. He won't ever think that females can't be scuba divers. Ever again. And she was like, I don't know if I like that tone in your voice. And I was like, well, you did ask a sadist to be difficult, and I guess been mean to you. Okay, I got you. Don't you worry, I got you. So she's like, I'm kind of excited to introduce you, but now do you want to make any changes before we go? And she's like, nah, I can't be that bad. It won't be that bad. All right. She goes, this guy to this guy, and this guy to this guy, and then the guy who was supposed to rescue me. And this is Susan. Hi. How are you? And he looks down at me because he was taller, and he goes, oh, Patty, couldn't you like pick someone that would actually be difficult? I see what you mean, Patty. Okay. All right. He goes, I've done wrestling, so this is like going to be a piece of cake. I can just, pick you up with one hand. Ooh. See, I have this innate ability that if my body goes limp, I can weigh a whole lot more than you would think I'd ever weigh. And he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not going to be going limp, so you don't have to worry about that. But I guarantee you, you are making a mistake if you think that I am gonna be easy. I guarantee you that. And he's like, oh, and then he went to pat me on my hand. I was like, what? Oh, no, you didn't. Oh, no, you. And he was like, how'd you move so fast? I'm like, don't judge a book by its cover. So, Patty told me to be a little, I'm going to give you this warning. Patty told me to be a little extra difficult just for you. And he was like, ooh, that sounds like fun. And I'm like, yeah. I'm also going to give you a warning. I'm a sadist. And he was like, yeah, whatever that means. You know, you're a girl. All right then. All right then. Okay. All right. You've been being mean to Patty? And he's just like, you know, I mean, you know, she's just the teacher. And I'm like, yeah. Yeah, she always that's good. Yeah, I want to do that. I'm letting you know I'm going to be difficult. And he's like, how difficult can you be if you're letting me know you're going to be difficult? You'll see. You'll see. You'll see. I guarantee. He's like, and he said, you know, it'll be easy to bring you in. And I said, all right, you know what? I'll take you up on that bet. How quickly do you think you could bring me in? And he looks at me and he's like, I will be the first one to bring, you know, I'll be able to bring you in probably a minute. A minute. 60 seconds? 60 seconds? He's like, yeah. I don't think so. But okay. And Patty was like, okay, everybody get in the water. And I'm like, I got this. Did a back roll and swam out about. So for those who know Clear Spring Scuba Park, I back rolled in and then I swam over to where I was above the airplane. You know, where there's that nice little current that goes through. Yes, I did that. I did. And so then, you know, I'm like, well, you automatically lost because it's going to take you a minute to get out here at minimum. So, all right, come on. Come on. Come on, little boy. Let's play. Let's play. You are willingly doing this, so let's play. And so, you know, everybody gets in the water and, you know, Patty's like, go. And so then, you know, the other people go and I'm, help. I'm not going to yell the way I did over there, but know for a fact that it was loud. And so I'm splashing and he comes over and I was just doing little splashes. Just a little splash. And then he comes over and I go, whoosh, and then the water just, big wave comes down and he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah. Help. And he goes to reach for me, I pick him up and I throw him over and I'm like, help. Help. Yeah. And then he comes back over after he fixed his mask and he goes to grab me and I go, that way, help. Help. So then he tries to go underneath the water to grab me and I just swim backwards. And he goes, I just swim a little bit backwards. Help. He tries to go over this. Help. And go over this way. Help. Help. And then, you know, he surfaces. And then he tries to grab for me again and tries to grab my BCD and I just go like this. Help. Help, 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 help. Help, help. Help, help, help. And then he tries to like swim underneath to then come up and like go on my back. And I'm like, help, help, help. Help, 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 help. Help. Help, help, splash, splash. Help. Help, help, help. Help, 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 help. So then he like grabbed my hand from underwater and I pulled him up and threw him and I'm like, help, help, help. Help, 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 help. Help. And then I heard a truck engine start. As I'm help, 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 help. Splash, splash, splash. Yeah, I hear, you know, these tires just kicking up gravel, kicking it up. Help, 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 splash, splash. Help, help, help. And the guy comes back at me and is just like, oh, I don't think so. Get out of here. And he pops up to the surface. It's just like, help, 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 help. And he, let me help you. Help, 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 help. Patty told me to be difficult. Just remember that. Help, 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 help. Remember, you were also mean to Patty, so help, 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 help. So then he goes to go and grab my waist, and I just take him off and, you know, just kind of let him slide across the surface of the water, kind of like a bowling ball, just literally with the water. Help, 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 help. And then I hear a car door slam, or a truck door slam, and I'm like, And Patty goes, everybody inside, everybody get out of the water. And I'm like, I asked her. So yeah, I'm like, I better get there quickly, swim over real quick, get out of the water. And I see this guy and he's yelling at Patty, you know, run up the stairs. You know, I'm like, hey, that was me. I apologize. And he's like, I am yelling at Patty because of the rescue diver class. What does that have to do with you? Yeah, so she told me to be difficult. I was being difficult. I was. I'm sorry. It was my fault. And he's like, who are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm Susan. Nice to meet you. Well, I still had my gear on. I'm like, oh, let me take off my neoprene cover and my I'm he just looks at me and goes, oh my God. I'm like, hi. So, I was just being difficult because I was told to be difficult because it was a rescue diver course. And so, hi. That was me. You made that? You made that sound? Oh, you mean the help? He's like, yes. You're like, how much do you weigh in that gear? Oh, probably, I don't know. I know out of the gear I weigh about 110. So that's about what I know. But, you know, I don't know how much I weigh in the gear. Never thought about that. And it just, so can you yelled? I raised my voice. I told Patty that, you know, I was born and raised in New Jersey and I know how to be loud. And she knows about my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000 when I was in the Army. So, you know, I learned, you know, a little extra on that projection of voice and stuff. So, yeah. Ask me, don't yell at Patty. And he was just like, how did you make, oh my God, how loud. We got calls, like, people scared, like, oh, sorry, I wasn't trying to be loud. I mean, I was, just, I didn't mean to scare anybody. We were just doing the rescue diver course. So, and he was like, you know what, you have to use the word pizza from now on. Oh, why pizza? It's like, call for pizza, just not help, because people, like, actually thought you needed help. Oh, okay. Well, it was a rescue dive, of course. And by that time, that would be when the mail that was sent out to get me starts, getting onto the platform, and was like, yeah, so, I was supposed to be difficult. I was supposed to be the most difficult scuba diver to bring in, and, hi. I think I succeeded. And he was like, why do you say that? I go, because he didn't bring me in. I walked in on my own. So, after I got out of the water that I swam across. But, that is what it is. But yeah, that was me. He's like, you can't yell help anymore. Okay. So it's call for pizza? Yes, call for pizza. Okay. Told you I shouldn't yell. Well, was I a good, difficult scuba diver? And she was like, yeah, oh my God, yes, yeah, you know, why don't you go back over to your class with Matt right now? you need to go back to your class. I was like, okay, Patty, I'll see you later, bye. It was nice. I do apologize. I did not mean to cause any problems. I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna be talking with Patty about you. Oh my God, are you kidding me? No, hi. Sure you don't have any other questions, right? No, it's just, where's your car? Oh, over there. And he's like, so how did you get it? I walked. So you're gonna walk back? Yeah, I'm gonna walk. I mean, I'm gonna take my fins off, but yeah, I'm gonna walk. And he's like, you went up the stairs with your fins on? Yeah, they're still on my feet. So, yeah, I'll take them off, and that make me feel better. Oh my God, yeah. And then Patty was just like, so, Susan, why don't you go back to the other side of the lake to go back to your class? Oh, okay. Bye. I won't go. So he technically never brought me in. But by the time I got over to the other side, Matt was at the at the patio table, and he stood up and he goes, what happened? And I was like, oh, Patty told me to be a difficult scuba diver. Ready for class? And he's just like, yeah, okay. Oh my God. I thought, was that your neoprene cover that ran out? Yeah, my ladybug. Okay, yeah, sure, that happened. Oh my God. So, I was just like, okay, so what I didn't miss anything from class? He's like, no, you didn't. Okay, let's. The rest of the class, come on. Apparently Susan had to give everybody a heart attack. She told me to call for help. Now I know to call for pizza. Pizza. Pizza is what I'm supposed to call for instead. Or at least for the rescue training thingamabob. Oh yeah, pizza. There you go. So, in closing of this particular aspect and the end of Volume 1, Chapters 1 through 4, it's a weird little coinky dink that in the nature cabin I stepped on a piece of pizza. And then that whole thing, in reference to Baptist Camp Lebanon. And then in Washington State, you know, when nobody wanted me to cook, it was always getting pizza. Irony. But at the same time, irony of, you know, hey FBI guys, here you go. Here you go. Here you go. CID, what do? Go contact the Pentagon. Oh, okay, hi Pentagon. So I'm here. And I can't get pizza because it's quarantine time.